my fellow servants of the Americas. All of the men and the women of this Pan-American Scientific Congress have come here tonight, I think, with heavy hearts. During the past few years, you and I have seen event follow event, each and every one of them a shock to our hopes for the peaceful development of modern civilization as we know it. And this very day, the 10th of May, 1940, this very day, 3 more independent nations have been cruelly invaded by force of arms. I am glad that we Americans, of the 3 Americas, are shocked, that we are angered by the tragic news that has come to us from Belgium and the Netherlands and Luxembourg.
So Hitler began rebuilding the German military in defiance of the Treaty of Versailles, and he began setting the stage, for World War II. Now, his main foe in the 1920s and early 1930s was Joseph Stalin. And Joseph Stalin tried his best to get allies to work with him to stop Hitler, and he couldn't do it. The Europeans were scared of communism. The United States was in isolationism. We didn't care what happened in Europe. So, Joseph Stalin was left hanging in his frame of mind out on a limb with nobody willing to help him.
The Blitzkrieg was his idea to send in his German Air Force, bomb the airfields, try to bomb the planes, get it to where they could not fight an aerial war, destroy means of production of weapons. And then when he had everything destroyed to a sufficient point, he could then send in his army and take over. It's a way of beating them down and making the nation that he's blitzing unable to respond with an aerial attack or produce weapons to fight back. So it's first line of attack for Hitler to do the Blitzkrieg.
On September 1st, 1939, German units with more than 2,000 tanks and 1,000 planes break through Polish defenses along the border and advanced on Warsaw in a massive encirclement. Britain and France, standing by their guarantee of Poland's border, declare war on Germany on September 3rd, 1939. Warsaw surrenders to the Germans on September 28, 1939. The Polish army is defeated within weeks of the German invasion. On April 9, 1940, in a lightning attack, German forces attack Norway and Denmark. Denmark is occupied in 1 day. German forces land in Norway near Oslo, the capital, and in other places securing the south. Germany also moves to secure the ports of Narvik and Trondheim in the north. British forces intervene, landing at Narvik, Namsos, and Indalsnes, but will be forced to withdraw by the first week of June 1940. Norway surrenders to Germany on June 10th. On May 10th, 1940, the campaign against the Low Countries and France lasts less than 6 weeks. the Germans concentrate their attack through Luxembourg and the Ardennes forest near the French city of Sedan. German tanks and infantry burst through the French defensive lines and advanced to the coast, trapping the British and French armies in the north. The Allies successfully evacuate over 300,000 troops from Dunkirk to Britain, but France is decisively defeated. Paris, the French capital, will fall to the Germans on June 14, 1940. As part of the armistice agreement France signs with Germany on June 22nd. Germany occupies northern France while southern France remains unoccupied. A new French government, situated in Vichy, declares neutrality in the war but promises cooperation with Germany. On February 2, 1943, the Soviet Army launched a counteroffensive against the German forces arrayed at Stalingrad in mid-November 1942. They quickly encircled an entire German army, some 250,000 soldiers. After months of fierce fighting and heavy casualties, the surviving German forces, now only 91,000 soldiers, surrendered. Soviet forces pushed the Germans back to the banks of the Dnieper River in 1943. The Soviet army remains on the offensive for the remainder of the war, despite some temporary setbacks. On June 6, 1944, more than 150,000 Allied soldiers under the command of U.S. General Dwight D. Eisenhower land on the beaches of Normandy, France. The Allies break out of the Normandy beachheads and will enter Paris on August 25, 1944. They liberate most of France by the end of August. The Western Allies are surprised in December 1944 when German forces attack through the Ardennes forest in Belgium in an attempt to divide and destroy Allied forces. Allied air forces, together with a fierce American defense, block the advance of German troops and force them into a general retreat. The Allies win a decisive victory in what becomes known as the Battle of Bulge and continue the attack into Germany itself. On June 22, 1944, Soviet forces launch a powerful offensive along the entire Eastern Front. German forces are pushed back nearly to Warsaw by the end of July 1944. In August and September 1944, Germany's remaining Eastern European allies, Romania, Bulgaria, and Finland, leave the war effort. Hungary, occupied by Germany in March, remains in the German camp. In mid-April 1945, Soviet forces launched a massive offensive toward Berlin. On April 25, 1945, Soviet forces linked up with American forces attacking from the west at Torgau on the Elbe River in central Germany. As Soviet forces neared his command bunker in central Berlin on April 30, 1945, Adolf Hitler committed suicide. Berlin surrendered to Soviet forces on May 2, 1945. The German armed forces surrendered unconditionally in the west on May 7th and in the east on May 9, 1945. Victory in Europe Day, VE Day, is proclaimed for May 8, 1945. In the end, the war was costly, not only for Germany, but for all nations that were involved in this war.